Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Make and Decorate podcast with Stephanie. This is season 5, episode 93, and we are so close to 100 episodes on this podcast. It blows my mind, and I can remember first starting this podcast 5 years ago. I'm starting my 5th season and my 5th year. I do one season a year, and it's just it's crazy and it feels great, and I have you guys to thank for it. I thank you for listening to my show, and patrons, thank you so much for your continued support. So let's get on with this. I have just a mini chit chat segment today because we have a huge hour of a great episode. So let's get started with this little mini chit chat. While I was convalescing a couple of weeks ago from having this terrible cold, I was back to knitting and a lot of TV. There wasn't anything else that I could really do at that time, just for that 1 week. And next time, hopefully, I will have a huge list of what to watch. I was everywhere. Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, and a lot of BritBox and some Acorn. So I'll go through that next time. And I also finished another one of the Arne and Carlos's Christmas balls, the Christmas ornaments, and I made the gingerbread man this time. The gingerbread man is so cute. Oh, I love this pattern. I liked the moose one too. So I'm doing really well with the double pointed needles now. I'm so glad I finally got the hang of it. I mean, remember when last year I was struggling with even getting the purl stitch? It might have been last year or maybe a year and a half ago. But and now look at this. I was thinking about it. I'm like, whoa, I really have come a long way in knitting. I have conquered the purl stitch. I now have conquered the double pointed needles. So what's next? Maybe cable stitches. I don't know. But I'm having a ton of fun, and I love learning, and this is so new and challenging, and I like working with the yarn, especially the wool, and you're literally making a textile out of a piece of yarn, a fiber, and it's lovely. I just absolutely love it. After the gingerbread man, I started knitting a dog sweater for Cooper. This is so cute, I have to say. And I did get this idea from an email by Pearl Soho. And it's a Pearl Soho pattern. I'll put a link in the show notes. But it's really cute. I purchased the pattern and took Cooper's measurements, started knitting it. And I'm probably about maybe a third of the way through. It has some interesting things I've learned. Every time I do a new pattern, I learn a new technique. And in this one, there was a technique of what's called a oh my gosh, I think it's called cable cast on. But you slide your needle in between two existing stitches at the end of your needle to like cast on another stitch. It's I guess a form of increasing, but it was interesting. There's, when you think of knitting and it's only 2 stitches, there's only a knit stitch and a purl stitch. But there's like endless ways of connecting them and increasing them and decreasing them and creating textures. It's amazing. So I do love learning the new techniques with that. And the pattern for Cooper size, I needed 4 skeins of yarn, and I just pulled them from my stash. I didn't order anything new, and I didn't have 4 of a single color, which is how the pattern is made with just a single color. But I chose these two colors because they have two skeins of each of them. And the one color is a linen, really beautiful linen-y oatmeal color. And the other color is a kind of a deep burnt sienna color. And they look really nice together, very autumnal. And it will look good on Cooper's fur. So I decided this is my own little like pattern alteration or design. I decided to make this in 2-inch wide stripes. It's really cute. So every 2 inches, I switch out the yarn color and knit whatever we're knitting for another 2 inches. And yeah, it's been going really well. So the one thing is that after I got to a certain place where then I started the back maybe like 6-7 inches are done, and then you start adding on the underbelly part. So then I looked ahead and I'm like, oh, how much more does this take? Well, there are a lot more steps to finish this sweater. So I momentarily kind of got paralyzed with fear and thought, oh my gosh, am I ever going to get done with the sweater? And am I ever going to be able to complete all of these steps? Well, yes, I will, because you just take a section at a time and you complete that section and you just move on to the next one. So that's what I told myself. So now I'm back to calm and just do what I can when I can, and it'll eventually get done soon. It's not that big of a sweater. So, but after I do this sweater, I'm thinking that I probably could then knit an actual human-sized sweater. First, I started and I made those little capelet shawls for the Lucky Juju cat dolls I made for my nieces. And now I've graduated to a dog sweater. So I think after this, I will graduate to a human-sized sweater. Yeah, that's been in my mind. That's my plan. Okay, last week was Amazon Prime Days. And did you guys partake in that? Did you get early holiday presents or gifts for yourself? I really didn't see that much in the way of great Prime Day deals. They always do, though, have good deals on their own stuff, like if you need a Kindle reader or an Alexa, something like that. But I did get a 3-pack of Meyer's hand soap, which was actually a very good deal. And just a couple of other utilitarian things. So I'm not so sure. Yeah, it really wasn't that great for me, but maybe you guys had better luck, especially maybe if you're buying for early gifts for holidays for children or something like that. The one thing, though, is that all of this hullabaloo about starting Black Friday early, it's like they're getting earlier and earlier every year. It does kind of set off this domino effect with all of these other merchants. So Target and Kohl's and everyone out there are following suit with this Amazon Prime, and they were all having some things going on. So I did find a really good deal for a Christmas gift, and that's all. I can't say anymore because in case they listen, which is my husband. Sometimes he does listen, so I'm not going to say anything, but I was really happy with that. Oh, and while I'm on the topic of gift for my husband, he has requested me to knit him a knit hat in like a Leeds hat, which Leeds, Leeds, is a soccer or football team in the UK. It's his favorite team, and I don't know why, but maybe there's better merchandise available in the UK, but online here We haven't really found any like really nice knit Leeds hat with their colors and stuff. So I was searching around for patterns and I don't know, there weren't that many. And so I don't know if I'm good enough at knitting to kind of like figure out like a chart to spell out and do color work with the word Leeds. But for those of you in the UK, if you know of any knitting patterns for a Leeds hat, a Leeds knitted hat for a guy, then please let me know. You could DM me on Instagram, email me. So let me know because I am on the search for that because he is expecting that for a Christmas gift. I know I only chatted about knitting, but that's all I've been doing the past 2 weeks. And don't worry, there is a lot of quilt talk in the main segment of this episode and coming up in the next episode. This is pretty much the end of the mini chit chat. My guest today is George Mendoza. And George is an artist, an abstract artist. And his art is digitized for quilting fabrics with Free Spirit Fabrics. And it's very interesting. He has a great story. And I forgot to say that he is blind. So he is a blind artist. He paints and on canvas and does other types of art, sand art, and so forth. You're going to hear all about this in this episode. This is a really special episode for me because I am so amazed and humbled by George's story. And I'm really honored to have him on my podcast today. So before we start, I just want to give you a heads up on sound quality. This recording was my very first Zoom podcast recording. I really didn't know the software at all. There was just something not right with my sound. I did a lot of editing to improve it, so I think it's fine, but it's not the quality that I and you are used to from my podcast. So I just wanted to let you know. I am aware of the sound quality. Also, I have a giveaway for one listener to receive a Fat Quarter bundle of George's latest collection called Spirit Winds. This just came out in September. A big thank you to Free Spirit Fabrics, who gave this Fat Quarter bundle for a giveaway to one of my listeners. So one of you guys will have a Fat Quarter bundle of Spirit Winds, George's newest fabric collection with Free Spirit Fabrics. Plus, they also included a little mini tape measure with the Free Spirit fabric logo on there. So a little extra bonus from them included in the fat-free bundle. One Fat Quarter bundle will go to one person, and you just simply need to leave a comment on this episode's podcast blog post at makeanddecorate.com, my webpage. So you go to makeanddecorate.com, click on podcast, and click on episode 93 and leave a comment. And you can make a comment to enter for this giveaway until Halloween, midnight of October 31st, Central Standard Time. I'll announce it on the next episode, November 4th. All right, so here we are. Let's go ahead and listen to my conversation with George Mendoza.
During his teenage years, George Mendoza went blind as a result of a rare incurable eye disease. Without his central vision, able to see only vague, colorless shapes at the edge of his peripheral vision, George went on to become a world-class runner and Paralympic contender. In 1980, he broke the world record for blind athletes with a 4-minute and 28-second mile. In the early 1990s, he began to paint full-time, painting the vibrant colors and wild landscapes that he sees in dreams and visions. Currently, his exhibition, Colors of the Wind, is a national Smithsonian affiliates traveling art exhibit and has been transformed into a line of fabrics from Free Spirit Fabrics. George is the founder and president of the Wise Tree Foundation, Inc., a nonprofit corporation for the promotion of the arts in New Mexico, as well as a spokesperson for the New Mexico Commission for the Blind. In 2011, George had a terrible hiking accident and long after suffered from cluster headaches, which caused him to have the vivid visions that inspired the Spirit Man series, his debut fiction series. Book 1 in the series, Journey of the Spirit Man, is available now from Wise Tree Press via Instagram. And Book 2, Vision of the Spirit Man, released on May 10th, is also available on Instagram. He has also written a children's book, Colors of the Wind. So welcome, George. Welcome to my show, and thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you.
Really
I'm glad to be here. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
So that is such an accomplished introduction. It's amazing what you've accomplished in your life, and very inspirational. So we're going to talk about your line of fabrics with Free Spirit Fabrics today. But before we talk about that, let's go back into your story and tell us how you became the artist that you are today.
Well, every time somebody reads a bio like that, I look around. I look around and see who they're talking about. If you look at a 15-year-old kid going blind with a single parent, a strong mother figure, probably should have made it. I mean, I get in trouble for this, but the unemployment rate for blind people is like 95% in this country. Disabled, 75%. So I pretty much had to create my own path in my life. I never really liked working for somebody else. I like the creative life. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to kick back and do that. But if you take that kid that's 15 years old going blind in New York, I was suicidal, depressed. It was a typical story. I had a girlfriend that was a cheerleader. I was playing basketball with Toby Knight, who was 7'4". We were a very good basketball team. In the middle of the season, I started catching the ball with my face and my broken nose and fingers. And, I was on first string as a 6'4" forward. And all of a sudden I couldn't see things, but I didn't know that for a long time. My mom took me to every doctor. They thought I had cancer and different conditions. And finally, when I went to the Manhattan Eye, Ear, Throat Hospital, they diagnosed me with fundus flavimaculitis. I'm like, what the hell is that? It sounds like fungus,
Yeah, it does.
And I'm like, what the heck's going on? And sure enough, I had a very rare eye condition in 1970. And looking back on it, I don't know how that kid survived, except my mom and moving from New York City to New Mexico was a big help. The sunlight was better, stronger, and I always enjoyed painting and running. So my mom said, well, maybe you could paint out here with the light. And definitely the desert roads were a lot easier to run on and hike on because there was no traffic except for rattlesnakes. And I've seen a lot of rattlesnakes. Anyhow, I think New Mexico had a big influence on me as far as an artist and a runner. The blind school was a big thing for me. Going from New York public school where they treated me like I was mentally handicapped. They just didn't help me in school. And then I get to the blind school and, just was able to adapt to a bunch of people that were used to being blind. And so they took me into the wrestling program, track program, and I began a comeback that the world has never seen. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I just, when I read your story and I've seen videos of you telling your story, it's just extraordinary. And I think about like, wow, how would I be if I lost one of my main senses, like vision, or hearing, or the things that we take for granted every day. And I'll just tell you this short little thing. The past couple of years, I have been dealing with, there's a scar in my cornea, and it's affected my vision. And I see like these flares off of my left eye, but it's not terrible. It's not in the center. It's on the upper, like right or whatever. So, but I can tell you that I really was getting down and depressed just about that. And just like, why, like the older I get and all this stuff is starting to happen, and poor me, and everybody else can see great. And I have to wear glasses. But now I can wear contacts again. Thank goodness. Because I found a doctor that, could get the prescription right. Because otherwise the other one said, you just got to wear glasses. But I see your video on YouTube and I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong with you complaining about a little scar that you can still see?
Yeah.
So it really does bring it to perspective. And I think it's wonderful. And I think that your life now is really helping so many people, especially in the blind community and the work that you're doing there, but also, just in general. I mean, quilters, Free Spirit Fabric is a big quilting fabric company, and quilters are making quilts with your fabrics, and people are sewing clothing with the fabric, and bags, and you name it. So I think that it's great what you're doing. And I'm going to put a link to that video. It was done several years ago, I think. I think it was like made for TV or something. But you started off by saying like, I don't feel depressed. I don't wish I could see. It was all this positivity that you started out with, and I was like, what? I was like, no way, that can't be. And then you went into your story, and then you did talk about how you had this pivotal change, and how your life before that. So to me, it made you very human and relatable. Yeah. So I really love that video.
I like to tell a story because during that depression and suicide thoughts I had, I ran into a priest in New Mexico that was an artist. And he sat down with me outside the Holy Cross Retreat House, which I used to run to from my house to the valley below, like 6 miles, 12 miles round trip. So we got together a lot and painted, and I made a very famous stone fountain with big goldfish there. And, it was a pecan orchard and just a real peaceful place. But he told me something I'll never forget. And I think it changed my life. And he said, why don't you, and it's emotional for me, but why don't you make pictures out of the craziness and designs? Because nobody else in the world can see them but you. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So years later, I had a good friend of mine come down from Deming with another good friend of mine, Paul, and she said, if he's blind, that artwork's going to be like crazy. What am I expecting here? And she was shocked, because what happened was, putting it all together, when I was at the blind school as a teenager in New Mexico, I ran into 2 twin sisters from Mexico that were totally blind. And they would paint with gel medium sand and purple, red, orange, and green, or blue, orange, red, and yellow. And I said to myself, all artists do the foreground first and they don't make the background interesting at all. I mean, even Van Gogh does a little sun in the background. Okay. So I started with just smearing colors with sand gel medium based on those two blind sisters. And then I threw in my sunflowers, my portraits, my landscapes, my crazy eyeballs floating in the sky. And that became like nobody had ever seen that on the whole art world. So it's an inspiration from the two twin sisters that were born blind and just did, finger painting. And then the priest actually was a Franciscan brother telling me, why don't you make designs, pictures out of it? And see, every person can just close their eyes and see images, but they don't think about painting them or, taking those images and making them into designs.
Mm-hmm.
So that was profound. That was like a big change. I knew now that I could cheat like hell and close my eyes and paint the designs,
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
that was profound. That was really profound in my career.
Yeah, it's really fortunate. And I think the other thing that I got from the video, it showed photographs of your mother, and I feel like she really was a catalyst in, just like moving you to New Mexico and doing all these things and just like being there for you.
Yeah. Well, I got a lot of stories about Mom, but one of my great stories is right after graduation, TG, Clarence, and I went back from the school back home. Mom fed us and gave us a ton of money, said, you guys travel this summer, then you're going to go to college. So in those days, you could hitchhike. So we hitchhiked, took buses, the Amtrak. We wound up lost in Vancouver, Canada.
Oh.
And we met so many wonderful people that took us in, fed us, took us, sightseeing, fishing.
Wow.
So then we came back home after that summer and she said, okay, you're all going to college. So, that's what we did.
Oh, wow.
And in those days, New Mexico State, I was the first blind guy ever there. They didn't know what the hell to do with me.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know how I made it through, but I got a bachelor's degree. I took art history. I met a lot of writers, artists, but it was really hard to get through because in those days, there was no computers, speech system. I hand all my term papers for somebody to type for me.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't take any tests because in those days it was ditto. It was all those purple smudge papers.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was difficult, but I got through. But that's where I started running with the New Mexico State track team.
Okay. Yeah, it's you did come up in a difficult time where the resources were like, almost none. And now today, technology definitely has improved, but has also the community as far as education and, support for the blind, has that improved? I mean, are there many more opportunities or is it still really a challenge?
It's a challenge. I always get in trouble for this, but I think, if you look at the unemployment rate, it's 95%. I've really never had a real job. I've been an artist and a writer and an athlete all my life because it's all the only thing I knew how to do, and I love to do it, and I've been very successful at it.
Right.
I know a lot of writers and artists that have to work 8 to 5. I mean, 8 to 5. And by the time they come home, they want to do a painting or try to write a book. My energy is, 3 or 4 hours every morning, whether it's painting, or writing, but I've got a body of work. I'm not one of those artists that has 4 paintings. I have 1,200 paintings. I've written 30 novels and a couple nonfiction books and 6 children's books.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so that's where I like to do my work. And I've been fortunate because recently I was interviewed and I was kind of surprised what I said. I said, a lot of writers, artists come to me and they want to be rich and famous. And I just did it as a hobby. But I caught a lot of attention with my running, with Disney, with my books, with Frank Wyman in New York, with my art, the Smithsonian and Free Spirit. And all of it, I never planned. I just did it.
Wow.
I just wrote, I painted, and I never once looked at it as, to be successful at it. I just did it as a hobby. I think I just needed a lot of therapy and it came into art therapy.
Well, I believe art of any kind, and including, just making anything with your hands is therapeutic. I don't know what I would do without it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. But also too, you love what you're doing. So
I love it.
It doesn't even seem like a job for you, I don't think.
It's a hobby, but I got discovered.
Yeah, it's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about your paintings.
Sure.
I've looked at a few of your older exhibits, and you have a gallery on your website, which I'll put a link to it. But the thing that I see, and also the collection that's also on this current Free Spirit Fabric collection, what I see in them is this graceful movement throughout. And then there is this illumination, almost like stained glass to me. That is, those are the first 2 things that just really come out at me and just really hit me with great impact. And it's beautiful, so beautiful. And to think about closing your eyes and taking a paintbrush to a canvas. I think you probably have honed your skills, of course, over the years, but just, it's still pretty amazing that you can just paint this art, and they're deep within the colors, values, and, you've done some geometrics, and I love those sunflower ones. They're so pretty. Yes. Yeah. Is it something that just, well, you said you painted as a kid, right? You painted and ran. So that sort of helped, I think, a little bit, give you a foundation maybe.
I painted with finger painting only as a kid. I sometimes wonder if I had low vision in school because I never used a paintbrush. I never liked that disconnect. I was embarrassed with this flower sun painting. I did it in 1st or 2nd grade, so I threw it away. And my mom, it was in a booklet, and my mom dug it out of a bush at school. That painting is now in the Smithsonian Traveling Art Show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a little, thing I did on paper, a thick piece of paper. So the stained glass is interesting because I've been all over the world, and I've been very interested in stained glass in churches. And, a lot of people describe, Jesus or an angel, but I just saw the colors. So that's what I did. I just flared the colors like if it was stained glass.
Yeah.
The sunflowers are very famous out here. I grow sunflowers, and a friend of mine has a sunflower farm. And I'll look at them, and I'll actually watch the sunflower follow the sun. And so I do a flare of the sun in the sunflower and in the background. I paint outside.
Okay.
I have a backyard with a easel, and tables, and I drag all my paints out there, and I watch the clouds and the sky. and then, I'll doodle something, set up the background, and then I'll outline it with either white chalk or white paint. And then the background's always dark, black, purple, marine blue. And then I trace in the sunflower or the mountains. And then I just add colors into the sky and into the hills or the sun. And if the sun is primary colors, I put that in through the dark sky. And then, when you get going, if you're outside and it's windy, then you get that whimsical thing going on. You don't get anything solid. None of my artwork has really something solid in it. And what's kind of interesting is the Free Spirits has, they have the whimsical part, but then they also will make something solid in another design from that whimsical part, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a funny story. The president and the designers used to come down before everybody had cell phones and high-tech cameras, and they would film my art, take me out to a fancy restaurant, go back to North Carolina, and, put everything in a computer, and then come back the next year with, 15 more designs, through Free Spirit. My first one was years and years ago, Wise Tree, Faraway Eyes, and Flowing River. So I'll never forget this. This is funny. Joyce had to go to the bathroom, and Nancy was a designer. Says, Mr. Mendoza, I got to apologize to you. We're photoshopping the holy hell out of your artwork, getting everything color, orientated so we could sell more fabrics. He says, I hope you don't mind. I said, girl, as long as I get paid, I'm blind. I can't see what the heck you guys are doing to my art, It was really funny how they apologized to me.
Oh, yeah.
And then she goes, you know what? Sighted artists are a pain in the ass because they want all these colors exactly, the way the art was. And
yeah.
That's not me, sister.
And even, now they can print so many more colors on a fabric, but just going back even 10, 15 years ago, I think that they could only do maybe 12 colors on a fabric. So, I can understand where they're coming from when they talk about that.
Yeah, it was really funny. Then Joyce came back and said, what are you guys laughing about? The colors we messed up? I'll give you an example of what they did on Faraway Eyes, which is one of my famous paintings of Smithsonian. There was yellow flowers. They tinted it with orange. So what?
Okay.
That's fine.
I think, I'm just going by what I see, but it looks to me like the fabric collection that's coming out, it's shipping in August right now, but the integrity of your artwork is there.
Oh, yeah.
I think maybe it's just like you said, the colors kind of get changed up a little bit, but it's beautiful. It really is
they
beautiful.
do. Spirit Winds is based on a few paintings, and then they, take different designs and they'll put it into circles or little dots, and it's fine.
So you've been with Free Spirit Fabrics, it sounds like, for many years. Probably before. Okay, that's why I couldn't find previous collections of yours, because Free Spirit was purchased a few years ago.
No, they sold out.
They sold out, right?
Yeah, and they have a thing with me. Don't talk about your other designs, but I ignore them. Because it started a long time ago with Free Spirit. I'd like to tell a story, if I could, about that.
Yes.
Dolene Land was a counselor for the Texas Commission for the Blind. She retired, but she also had a degree in art, and she became a curator and director of the Ellen Noel Art Museum in Odessa, Texas. So she was looking for a connection with, her career and a blind artist. And so she couldn't find anybody but yours truly. So she came to New Mexico and took me out to a Mexican restaurant. And then we came to my studio and she goes, "Oh my God, this artwork's better in person than on your website," because I had a fear that everything was photoshopped, because that's what was going on. Everybody was photoshopping their art. So she put together a collection of 42 paintings, and then they got endorsed by the Smithsonian. So all of a sudden, I had a Smithsonian traveling art show.
Wow.
And then that caught wind with the Free Spirit. So they flew into Texas, New Mexico, and in those days they had digital cameras.
Okay.
So they're filming everything. Now I got a tech guy that has a cell phone with 3 cameras, and that's how we do all of it and put it in a Dropbox.
Oh, wow.
Nobody comes anymore. Take me out to lunch. So, again, it was just the luck. It was all about luck. Jolene had the background with the blindness. She loved my art. They took it over to Odessa. They made a show out of it. In my show, I have fabrics, text panels, and then the local quilt club here did a quilt show called By George. And they did hundreds of quilts, but some of them were in Braille for the blind.
Okay.
And so the blind could touch the quilts. And then one of my friends reads Braille, and they quoted Faraway Eyes by the Rolling Stones.
Oh, wow.
Because that was a big inspiration. It's a country western song. It has nothing to do with my artwork, but I just love the Faraway Eyes thing.
Interesting.
So I've had quilt shows, fabric shows, Colors the Wind right now is in Canadian Texas. I'm flying out there the end of September. And other museums are looking at like Houston, the Whitney, museums in New York, Texas.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty wild considering I didn't plan any of this.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. And but when you take on these opportunities, so that's part of it.
Oh yeah, I go everywhere they send me.
Yeah, for sure. That's so interesting. Your history with Free Spirit, and I like their fabrics, and I think that they do tend to have more artistic designers in their lines too, which is really, really nice.
Well, what I find really fascinating is, and you could quote me or not, but I think I'm like the only abstract artist they have. They may have a few painters that do a couple designs, but nobody has a bulk of work that like I have. Because every time Free Spirit picks a painting, they put, dozens of designs based on that one painting. And, like I say, I have a collection of like over 1,200 paintings. So we're still looking at artwork. In fact, after Spirit Winds in January comes out Enchanted Skies, my other line coming up.
I was going to ask you what was coming next. Enchanted Skies. Okay.
Yeah.
I love the names of your collections too. How do you come across naming them? It sounds like more, kind of like nature and.
Well, the secret is 2 shots of tequila with orange. No. I've got a great circle of friends that'll come up with silly titles, and then we come up with the real names. So I'm thinking of Jim and, my friends around me. So we come up with good Mexican food helps too. And then you kind of just sit around and think of this name, but also New Mexico, enchanted skies. I mean, look where I live,
Yeah.
There's the mountains and then dark rain clouds and rainbows and storms and, So, I come up with the names.
Nice.
I get a little help, though, but, I'm
Very
basically,
nice.
I mean, it's poetry,
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm cutting into the middle of our conversation because the next segment is going to be some quilts and art and things that he is showing me on the video. And if all goes well with video editing, I will post that on my YouTube channel. However, some of the parts of it still translate well enough for the audio, so I'm going to keep that part in. This is what that is. So I just wanted to make sure it's kind of, not too rough of a transition. You don't know what's going on.
All of the shirts they're all different fabrics from your collections.
Yes.
Put together in a nice way. I like that.
I want to show you one interesting panel that Free Spirit did. So it's sunflower and bleeding clouds, sunflower, bleeding clouds, all original paintings.
Wow, that is stunning. And that would also make a good wall hanging, I think.
The what?
I see that as a beautiful wall hanging as well.
Oh, yeah. And my friend went ahead and did it like that. So we have it like that.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Oh, gorgeous.
I want to show you the sun, the New Mexico sun that I'm really attracted to.
That's so pretty. You know what, too, is that I kind of love cool colors. I gravitate toward them all the time. But every once in a while, like that painting right there, I gravitate towards that. And it's all warm colors. It's just the way that they're put together, I think.
All right. Now, this is where my mom would say, she would walk by a painting and say, "Son, that's a piece of crap." So then we turned it upside down and she said, "This is a masterpiece. It's the monkey flying nostrils."
Oh my gosh, I see it.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So she turned it upside down and said, "Look at the monkey with the flying nostrils." So
totally.
I love this painting.
That is so cool. Yeah.
So, it's funny how one person, my mom was famous for that. She would say, "That painting will never sell." And I sold every one of those paintings that she said wouldn't sell.
And what would she say when they did sell? Say it.
Couldn't believe it.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
She was hilarious, I'll tell you.
Oh, man. So I did want to ask you, too, about Colors of the Wind, because I don't remember, I saw it was probably in one of your videos, but there was a girl that you were a camp counselor or something, and she asked you what color is the wind, right?
Right. I have the book here. If you're still on video, it's right here.
I read it. Thank you. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Okay. I was going blind. The story goes like this. I was going blind, and Mom sent me to a summer camp in Long Island at the Helen Keller Institute. And it was on top of the bluff, and at the bottom of the bluff was the ocean. So the kids and I was a junior counselor, and Debbie was 8 or 9 years old. And she was born blind. She had never seen, the color green, the ocean, a tree. So when the wind blew, an ocean breeze, it went through her long hair, and she turned around and asked me a question that changed my life. What color is the wind?
Yeah.
And, the funny story is I talked to her years later, and she goes, I don't remember asking you that question. You made it up. You know? But she asked me that question, and I told her, like I said in the book, it's a rainbow of colors.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because a lot of people think blind people see darkness. I'm the opposite. I see colors. I see lights, floaters. I see the scar in your eye. Like that design.
Yeah.
You know, so that changed my life. That was like, I got to answer that question. And I've been doing that. It's emotional, but I've been doing that all my life.
Yeah.
And to think I have Colors of the Wind, a traveling art show at the Smithsonian, Colors of the Wind children's book. We have Colors of the Wind, the movie script that we're trying to peddle in Hollywood.
Nice.
And then also Colors of the Wind, the fabric line, which is no longer around, but I think you could find pieces of it.
Okay.
And, it's just something I've been very fortunate to answer. Colors of the Wind, it's like college taken literature. Buddha asked his disciples 2 questions. What did your face look like before your parents were born? And what color is the wind?
Oh.
Yeah, it's profound. Because if you think about it, you ask everybody, what color is the wind? They'll say, there's no color in the wind.
Right.
But if you think of the wind going through trees, clouds, rainbows, mountains, a field of flowers, it's got plenty of color.
Sure. I can envision it pulling the colors through, like you said, through her long hair or through the trees, whether the leaves are green, there's going to be some green colors and yellow. And yeah, it's very interesting. And as a fully sighted person, it really makes me pause and think because, like I said earlier, our everyday senses we tend to take for granted. And it's good to just stop and really just, appreciate and ask those questions because it really, I think too, helps creativity.
Yes. I'll tell you a funny story. My eye doctor, Dr. Lazaro, who I put in all my books as a wizard. Anyhow, he's always telling me every year that I get an eye checkup. We're close to a cure. And I'm like crossing him. It's like, I'm famous because I'm blind, man. Why would I want to see again? I've traveled the world because of my blindness. In the Olympics, lectures. Before COVID-19, I was a motivational speaker. And it's kind of catching up, but a lot of it's done on Zoom now, which is kind of interesting because I can stay home and, do my work and not lose, days traveling and stuff. But I do miss traveling.
Yeah.
I get a kick out of the Amtrak train when I go from New Mexico to California because Spencer is the conductor and he'll announce on the train, we got a famous blind guy here. He writes books and does art. And I'm going to turn him on to my best friend, John Travolta, about his movie on Journey to the Spirit. It's like, who is this guy? So, I get a lot of attention when I travel with the white cane, and I know a lot of people in the business, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because you're talking about there's a cure coming, and it made me think about like don't lose your superpower. It's almost like your superpower.
Yeah. Well, one of my best friends is my physical therapist, Ron Roulette, and he was born blind. And at 25, he got an operation for cataracts, and he sees perfect now. But before the cataract operation, he had the same void problem that I have. I don't have the sight. So I fill it up with inner visions. And he described everything I see, the floaters, the eyes, the mystical landscapes. When he got his sight back within 2 weeks, that inner visions was gone, period.
Oh, yeah.
And now he's a doctor and he drives a Mustang and, has clients that he helps. But we talk about it all the time. And I said, I don't want to lose it.
Right.
I don't want to lose the superpowers.
You're right. Yeah, absolutely. It's really extraordinary. And it's nice that you, captured it and really have grown with it. It's amazing. So I just want to just recap about the Free Spirit fabrics. It's shipping this month out to quilt shops everywhere, and so everyone should be able to find it in September. And then I'll put a link to Free Spirit so everyone can take a look at this beautiful collection. It is absolutely beautiful. And like I said, to me, it really looks like this beautiful stained glass and it's illuminated with light. Yeah, I love it.
Tell your listeners I want 5 pillowcases.
Okay. Those are easy.
Yeah, I've been thinking, somebody got to make me a pillowcase. They make me shirts, ties, and where's my pillowcase? Quilts.
Pillowcases are a great gift. I will make them for my nieces and nephews, sometimes for Christmas presents. Okay. And it's such a utilitarian thing, but people love them. They love pillowcases that are out of the ordinary. They're not just like a plain, white fabric. I mean, especially with the kids, and they're seeing all these, cool colors and, animals or whatever. So it's funny because when I first made them the one year, for the very first time, I was like, oh, it's kind of a boring gift. It's not a toy. Yeah. And then my sister was like telling me later, she's like, they want to sleep with this pillowcase all the time.
Right. So, I got everything but pillowcases. And now I got this quilt that's the size of my living room,
Yeah. Yeah. It's fantastic, that quilt. Yeah, it's amazing. Beautiful. I love that one. In the background of it is a vibrant red. And then all of the rest of your fabrics just really pop from that. They did a good job with making all of those designs sewn on top of the background, popping off of it where it doesn't really blend in too much, which is great.
I took it to a bunch of my friends yesterday and they were kidding me. They said, you know what? I like the back of it better than the front. The back
is my gosh.
Color. So I said, all right, that's it. I'm taking it home. And you guys are a bunch of haters. And it was funny, but they loved it.
That's not the only time that it has been said. So many quilters have gotten that, where sometimes they don't even realize which side is the front. Yeah. And I think that when people aren't used to seeing quilts, they're used to seeing like a single fabric covering, from top to bottom. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. So I have a favorite restaurant in here, and the girls, Jenny and Rosie, made aprons out of the sunflower print.
Mm.
So I'd go in there and say, okay, where's my free dinner? And they say, that won't work. But, this town took over with quilts and designs, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I love it. I just love fabric too, because just the tactileness of it, and the fact that fabric has been around since ages and ages ago. With all the way back to the ancient Egyptians and stuff. So I feel like fabric is really an important thing in our lives, and it's really nice to sort of celebrate it with your art and fun designs. And I feel like that really I think color and art definitely lifts the psyche and your spirits and really can make people's lives happier. And I think that that's what your art does. Is it makes us happy. So I really am glad that you came on to the show. Is there anything else you want to mention? We are going to record for the patrons a short episode. And we're going to kind of take a deeper look at your daily life as an artist and speaker. But is there anything you want to end up with or have our listeners take away?
Yeah, it's kind of an emotional thing, but, my mom passed away in 2015, but she left me with 2 words, but it's really 6 words, but it's still 2 words. And she said, in life, you have to follow up, follow up, follow up. I said, okay, Mom, that's 3 words. Persistence, persistence, persistence. And I've had to live by that. I'll follow up with museum directors, movie people, and you have to be real persistent. But again, life is so strange because everything I plan doesn't happen, but everything I do as a hobby explodes. Wow. So I haven't figured out how all that works, but it's worked for me. The chance I've had to go all over the world and speak and either run or speak in motivational talks or art shows, with COVID hitting everybody so hard, museums weren't picking up shows because of cost of gas and stuff. And here I am flying out to Canadian Texas in the middle of nowhere, but that's cool. It's a beautiful art museum, and it has 42 of my paintings. They've already had 3 summer camps serving over 5,000 children doing What Color is the Wind?
Oh, wow.
And they've been posting all their artwork in front of my artwork on Facebook. And then they have one kid, I don't know if he's blind or not, but he's touching one of my sand paintings in the show. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I really am proud of, that you can actually touch a painting of mine instead of, Guggenheim arresting you for touching a Picasso or Van Gogh, with a laser beam hitting you. So I've been all over the world and been very fortunate.
The work that you do with the children is so important. And I feel like that you just are blessed tenfold because of this. And it's one
more story, if I can.
Sure.
A kid came up to me in one of my art shows and said, "Are you the famous blind wizard like Harry Potter?" So I told him, I put my hand on his head and said, "Close your eyes and tell me what you see." And when he came back to me at the end of the show, he said, "I saw everything you see, the eyes floating in the sky and the explosion of colors." So I don't know. Maybe I sent him somewhere. I don't know.
Wow.
But that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Kids need, I think that, especially when, they are blind and are trying to navigate the world just like you did. And I mean, imagine if you had somebody like yourself, to sort of guide and help you as a child. It's pretty fantastic. Yeah.
It's a tough world though, being blind. I'm
I'm
sure.
The
thing I miss the most is like being able to just go to the store whenever I need something, instead of hiring my drivers but I've been fortunate because I've been able to travel the world by hopping on a train, a plane, a boat. It's easier to get around the world than it is in my hometown because I need a ride to the store. When I go on a speaking tour, an art exhibit, I just the shuttle picks me up. I take the plane and I'm I'm fine.
Oh, wow. Very nice. Well,
So I'm still trying to answer that question.
What colors of the wind? Yeah, I love it.
What color is the wind?
Love it. So I'll put links to your website and social media, fabrics in the show notes, and my podcast blog. And yeah, this has been wonderful. I really appreciate you. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. Free Spirit is giving me a Fat Quarter bundle to give away to a listener. So I'll give those details out. I'll edit this and tell the listeners exactly what they have to do. Basically, it's going to be them to go to my podcast blog page and put a comment in there, and then it'll randomly choose a winner. But yeah, thank you, Free Spirit. I really appreciate this. And some lucky person is going to have a whole Fat Quarter bundle.
Is it Spirit Wings or just whatever?
It is, yes. It's the new Spirit Winds collection.
Right. There's your pillowcase. Send me a pillow.
There you go.
Winner.
Winner.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
This is great. Thank you.
If you would like a bonus episode every month, become a patron and support the Make and Decorate podcast show at my Patreon page, Make and Decorate. For extended show notes with links and photos to what we've talked about, visit my podcast blog at makeanddecorate.com. And remember to take some time for yourself to be creative. Bye-bye.